welcome back to Project Independence Review, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. Well, this is now the talk of the town, say Kristina Lou, and to hear all about what's going on, we just had a great hour with our partners, EAC, and, just learning about, again, all the stuff they do, the way that they adapted during the pandemic, and also what they learned and going forward. And, Otto, you just mentioned something very briefly during the break that you said, there's so many, because we said how great of an, agency they are. And you said there's so many great agencies on Long Island, but it just doesn't seem like people are aware. So I wonder if it's why they're not aware. Like, what is it that, we're in the biz. So like, we know all these great organizations, and, with 311, North Hempstead seems to have a little better handle on, I think, a lot of things. And there are a lot of agencies around, but, kind of going back to what you were talking about when you were growing up, Otto, is, social work was kind of looked at like, mental health issues.
Yeah, it is with social work. It was always, like the myth, because even myself, I know it's always like the person who knocks on your door and like takes your children away or something. It had this very kind of
had a negative
connotation.
Right.
And I think, listen, we've been partnered with EAC Network, and that's just one of the many networks that we're partnered with for, forever, so it's so incredible to really showcase the work that they're doing, and back to your question, why don't people know? I feel like a lot of people just don't even know where to begin to find these organizations, and that's why I think it's so great with Project Independence that you can call 311, our call center, and be connected. And we have, this little network of all these things to direct you, because especially, I think during the pandemic, everyone was so caught up in their own struggles and figuring things out, so it's incredible to see how each organization kind of came to and how they were affected and how they provided services, and I think, look, they didn't miss a day, of providing these services, and I think it's just so incredible that they were forced to say, okay, we got to get food to people. How do we now do this, with all these safety, and everyone was scared. I mean, I think it seems so long ago. Right. And, it seems more than 2 years, frankly, when you really think about it. Like, it's just, and Otto, and you were saying, you can't even remember, how all this happened. But, I was like, it's all archived on our Project Independence radio show, because every week we were in real time dealing with, what was happening around us and the different information that was coming in and our fears and our struggles. So I think it's just nice now, as I sit back and listen to these interviews, like, yes, of course, we're not out of it completely, but we're certainly on the upswing of, returning to a better existence.
Yeah, and the importance of these agencies, I think, huge. Really became clear for a lot of people during the pandemic, because, as you know, we lost a lot of human service partners and agencies over the years due to funding or what have you, and they provided a lot of these very important programs. So it's good to see that they're growing. And Otto, to what you're saying too, is there are a lot of these kinds of agencies that are out there, and they're means tested. If you don't have the money, or if you can pay based on your income, it's there. It's
and Otto, I love what you said about Meals on Wheels. It seems like such a simple concept, right? Like, oh, you get a meal, you get it delivered, check that box. But and I'm a social worker myself, so of course I'm a little biased in this area. But when I see the impact, and it's more than just the meals, because it's now a socialization component, and that person looks through, and they didn't even go into detail, because that's my favorite, are the little stories and vignettes that, Christine will send me when I'm working on my reports and stuff. And, it's the little things. I'm the queen of the little things, as we all know, and how it goes a long way, because during the pandemic, they were sending little birthday cards, to the seniors.
How
And
sweet.
then they were
Yeah.
putting together little care packages when they would drop off the meals with, PPE and different things. So they were finding ways that, weren't extravagant, but it was these little tiny things. And I think especially during that time, that's what people held on to. It went to a simpler time, and it was these little simple things that people, needed to feel somewhat connected and, thought of. So it's
No,
it's
but
just incredible.
you see, we're, and you two more than me, but me more than a lot of people are engaged in
Hmm.
this world of agencies and
Hmm.
helping people stay in
Hmm.
their own home and all the other things that get affected by it. Normally, people are not that engaged in that. They're out working, they're out running around. They don't even know. And still, frankly, people don't know who Project Independence is. I mean, we think every house knows. No, they don't. I've asked people as much as last
Hmm.
week if they were familiar with it.
Hmm.
No. So I think what has to be assumed is don't take for granted that everybody knows about all this stuff
Hmm.
because they don't.
Never.
You know,
Hmm.
Listen, we know most people come upon these agencies and even Project Independence in panic mode.
Hmm.
It's
exactly.
slam.
Yep.
All of a sudden, my mother needs all these services and programs. I don't know what to do, you know. So that's why, the foundation of PI is planning.
Yeah.
If you don't need us now, just register. Otto, even if you don't need us, just register, and then you just know we're here and we provide the services. So I tell my friends all the time, when they put off things in their house, or, their mother, it really shouldn't be driving. She stopped driving at night. Now she's just driving. You know, pay attention. Start
Yeah.
planning, because it's just all of a sudden you don't want to
It's
be in
there,
that
right?
place.
But I think the
There is
problem is, Otto, and we say this all the time. It's kind of most human nature. Unless you're Otto, who prepares for
right.
all kinds of things. I mean, and this is outside of just Project Independence. This is in all realms of living. It's very rare, that the person is really planning, and being proactive with certain things. It's fixing the pipe leak when it happens. You know what I mean? It's like it's very difficult, and I think that because it takes work. Like, let's be honest. It's I mean, in the long run, it's beneficial that you have all these things in, but I think a lot of people are hesitant to dive in, or they don't want to think about it, or address these things. And
You could
I think.
you can bring that even further into something as serious as diseases. All
Hmm.
right.
Right.
You see a disease, Parkinson or whatever. I'll pick any name you
Hmm.
want. Uh, you really don't want to become an expert on that disease
Right.
if you don't have to, because there's just too many. So, it's very much the same
Right.
analogy. You don't become concerned about people who can help you unless you need it. And that's when the panic sets in.
Right.
And,
Yep.
and I think that's normal. It's life because
Yeah, of course. I
you
mean, listen, we'd
can't,
all love to say, I know, like, and I'm preach about all the things. And yes, there's some areas of my life I'm way more organized and prepared for, and there's other things that you're not. So it's just obviously, we could say all this, but it's certainly difficult, But I think it's important to recognize it and what you can do, and the little things that you can kind of prepare for, you
Right.
know, if you just like think about the times you have prepared for something, and it just takes so much stress out of being in that, God forbid, emergency situation. So
I mean, I think we plan better for our houses and our cars. Like,
yep.
I think you talked about this one time. We do oil changes, we do all these things. Like, we know what to do when there's an emergency in the house. Okay, the water boiler. Okay, call your company, call your
your
agency.
microphone.
Yeah, Beck, your mic sounded a little weird. We just missed the little tail end of that.
I'm sorry.
It's
How about now?
crackling.
Now you're good. Yes, it was
Um,
crackling.
I don't know what's going on, but like I was just saying that, we know what to do when something goes wrong in the house immediately.
Hmm.
So we know better what to do if the heat goes off. Okay, immediately we call our oil company or gas company or electrician, or you know. But if something goes wrong with us down the road, we're not planning for that. So it's
Right.
like
It's like, what do I
plan.
do? What do I do?
I
It's
know
true.
you have a, a membership or a contract with your oil company,
Right. It's
your,
true.
your lands, you have everything set up for all these aspects, but yet for you, when something happens or for a family member,
Yeah.
it's like you don't know what to do. You could be
No, it's
brilliant,
true.
you
And I
don't
guess
know what
because
to do.
those things are more like concrete kind of, services and they're like
Yeah,
outside, and it's interesting, and I think that that's really half the battle in people, understanding all these things because as we said, a lot of times you're not looking for it unless you're in that, panic situation.
right,
And we're fortunate to have this platform and to be knowledgeable about project independence and to have a lot of our members who have, been a part of the program for so long, understanding these things because I think there's a lot of people out there who, because we've seen it, who take advantage of project independence services, whether they attended an exercise class or, they had their gutters cleaned and they're not putting the connection that it's
right,
project independence. It's like, oh, I just went to exercise class. Oh, I just had like my gutters cleaned. Like they're not necessarily realizing the bigger picture.
right.
So I think that that's it's important, and all of our jobs and our, of course, our seniors and our partners to just kind of spread the word, because there's so many wonderful resources, and as we heard in the first segment, so many wonderful partnerships,
Yeah,
that are out there. So
Well, to me, that's the beauty of Project Independence. And I remember saying this right in the beginning. It was like call 1-800 Project Independence,
yeah,
right.
and it takes care of
Hmm.
you maybe being able to get to 100 different agencies.
Right,
Pick a
absolutely.
number. I don't know what the number, but there's all kinds of different things that you can learn or gain or
Yeah.
whatever by just calling one phone number.
Yeah, and it's I even think about myself. Like, listen, I've been with Project Independence for, many, many years now. And so of course I'm familiar with these things, but I feel myself I'm even learning, every time we talk to them or, they, do some kind of presentation. It's like, oh my God, I didn't
right.
even realize they provided that service. It's like there's just so much to constantly learn and understand. So and as you both said, we're fortunate to live on Long Island and especially in like, our Nassau County, North Hempstead community, where we have access to these wonderful, community-based organizations out there that are just doing, just, incredible things. So great. And just I want to remind people to get in contact with EAC. It's 516-539-0150. So that's just the main number. And then there's a bunch of extensions that we'll have up at the end of the video. So if you're watching, you'll see that at the end of the video. So just amazing. But I have
Great,
to, there's a lot to talk about, but in topical hot news, I really want Otto to share about his journey into the technology Alexa world and like, I toot his horn a lot. We don't want his head to get too big. But Otto
Gotta reel them in sometimes.
is just, on top of just being the most prepared, fabulous person I know, you are doing such amazing things for your community, and I feel like everybody would want a neighbor like Otto. So
I
enough
have some
of
good
the
neighbors too,
Otto
by the way,
stuff. But
that
Otto,
help
so
me.
tell us about what you did for a
Well, as
gentleman in
you
the
know,
community.
for the last probably 3 years or four prior to COVID, I was on the bandwagon always for seniors to learn technology.
Hmm.
And and I've been on the latest one. I'm going to use the word echo instead of the other word.
Okay.
All right. Echo for, Alexa. All right. So mine doesn't keep going off. So finally, this past week, um, my son-in-law and I got involved with a family member who's 90 years old, has macular degeneration, has great difficulty seeing, um, is a unique individual, and I've known him for a long time. But we figured we'd take the challenge on because he is a soul living by himself. He basically has nobody here. He's from Ireland originally, has a niece over there. And, he just doesn't have a big extended group that are in his support system. Um, so I talked to him and I said, Larry, you could do all these things. And this really came about after our session with the ladies, Esther and
Robin.
Robin,
Mhm.
about the echo, if you
Mhm.
will. All right. And after that, I read a lot of their stuff and whatever, and contacted them some to get more information, and decided we're going to put one in to this guy's house. All right, which we did this week, and I learned a tremendous amount. Um, and I'm not going to read the whole long list. I've added to it since I sent you last night. All right.
That's right.
I break it up into 3 stages. All right. The biggest thing really is the pre-setup or the site survey. All the things you should check out in advance, which I now have a very thorough list of and learned the hard way. All right. You need to have the usernames and the passwords. You got to have a phone that's charged. Uh, you have to know if it's an Apple or an Android phone because there is a difference in how they work. You have to know if first of all, if they have Wi-Fi. If they don't have Wi-Fi, forget it, unless they're willing to put in the internet provider.
Mhm.
And you go through this whole process, and there's a series of things you have to check out. Is the Wi-Fi strong enough? Should they have an extender or mesh, I think they call it, to make it more strong? Uh, um, what are the goals from what perspective? From the person themselves who will be the user, from a caregiver who wants to monitor some things for the betterment of the person who's the user. You want to be able to define the skills. All right. And that all requires pre-thinking. You don't just take it out of the box, put it in the house, and say, have a good time. It doesn't work like that. Right.
And on that note, we're gonna have everyone on the edge of their seats, right,
Right.
Beck?
Yeah, because on that note, we do have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we will definitely get back to the Echo information that Otto is providing because it really is terrific. You're listening to Project Independence and You, Talk of the Town on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We will be right back.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
Welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio in the Talk of the Town segment. And just want to get right back to Otto talking about all the things that the Echo can do to assist seniors aging in place. I mean, there's so many things, and just Otto, you really are pushing all the limits.
Well, to me, what I really, really learned is the pre-setup, the site survey, whatever you want to call it, is very important in making this thing work the right way, or making it so you can even make it work. Right? There's other things like whose smartphone are you going to use? Does this person who's the home have a smartphone? Maybe they don't. And if they do, then that will become what I'm calling the controlling phone. If they don't, it could be your phone, but now you will have the controlling phone. This is the phone that controls what goes on. It doesn't have to be on site, but it has to be the controlling phone. And that phone number will ultimately be what is linked to our Echo friend. All right. Now, part of that is that phone, if you want to use it for making phone calls and whatnot, if it's the user's phone, you have to have the contacts in there that they want. If it's not the user's phone and it's the controlling phone, you put their contacts in the controlling phone so that when you speak to Echo, it'll know to look at that number and pick up these people. And we made a couple of quick phone calls. It's like Echo, call Irene. Echo called Irene instantly. Boom. He has a niece in Ireland.
I was just going to say, Otto, I believe you called Ireland as well.
Yeah. Echo, call Louise. So these are, things that you think about in advance. Have that, to me, that should be one of the key skills that you implement right off the bat. Um, the other one is pretty basic. Do they have an Amazon account? You know, you have to walk in there when you're going to install and they don't have an Amazon account. That's how you connect it with our friend Echo. Uh, and then you could use that account to buy the device that they need and have it sent to their home. And, it helps. It makes life much easier.
Mhm.
What do you need with that? You need a username and a password. You need username and password for the phones. You need it for uh, what? To get the Wi-Fi, the router, you need a username and a password. Uh, the Amazon account, all of these things you need to know ahead of time so you can do it cleanly. Usernames, passwords, all right? If they're not set up, then you set them up. That's
Mhm.
part of the deal. Um, do what? Well, basically that covers a lot of what you should be concerned about in advance. Call it whatever you want to call it. Now, for me, I would love to see you guys have a unit in Clinton Martin Park. And that unit could now be demonstrated at any meeting.
Mhm.
All right.
Right.
You really could show, and it's not, if you got one without a screen, it's like $49. This
Mhm.
one was $141 with a screen. That's not a lot of money. And
Mhm.
you have all the other stuff. You could use maybe a couple of names on somebody's phone, uh, you know, just to demonstrate making a phone call.
Mhm.
And there's nothing better than a picture. It's worth 1,000 words,
No, you're so right, Otto. And I think that, like I said, from the when they were on the show, the senior safety advice ladies, talking about, Alexa, we'll whisper her, her name.
That's why I
um,
use Echo.
but she, there was so much I had no idea, and Otto and I know we were talking about this on the phone the other day, you know, for myself, I mean, it was just kind of used for fun purposes. It's like, oh, let's, what's the weather? Let's play some music. I'll get notified when my Amazon packages are coming or whatnot. So I wasn't even aware of all the amazing capabilities. And, what I
Yeah.
started to understand this was my best friend with her son, and I've said this before, she has the Echo device for her son, so she could pop in and look at him, and he could talk to her, and they could have a whole conversation, and it's just cool, like the little drop-in thing, because if she's at work and he's on the computer in his room or something, she could do that, and that just I found so amazing. And this was, a couple of years ago, and she was telling me about it, and we were at a party, and my friend, my other friend was saying, her parents live in Florida and they're not tech savvy. And she, was trying to find a way to be able to communicate with them. So then she got that device for them. So it's really something that I just thought was so incredible because it's not just a senior issue. It can be utilized in so many different ways. And I just think it's incredible,
Well,
Otto. And
we did actually use show and tell.
oh, that
Picked
well,
up,
that was my favorite, Otto.
all
Yes,
right,
share that
picked up,
feature.
he picked up a can. He has macular degeneration, seriously, very big vision problems, although interestingly enough, yesterday I spoke to him and he said, can you get me some printed instructions? I said, Larry, I said, you can't see, you know? I said, just talk to this thing and say, Echo, tell me what you can do and how I can use you. And it's
Right.
going to talk to you and it's going to tell you,
Yeah,
you know? But it was funny. I mean,
I like.
but the show and tell picked up a can, put it up against the unit, and it basically you say, Echo, what am I showing you? All right. It comes back almost instantly and it says college in broth soup. We did it
So
with
amazing.
a bottle of water, put it up, Nestle's Pure Light Water. Comes back and tells you right away. So think about people who have
It's life
vision
changing.
problems.
It's a life changing thing. That
It's
it is.
tremendous.
And what about, so I have a question. I don't even know if you know this. So if your Echo is linked to your Apple phone or your watch,
Mhm.
um, my first question, but I have a couple of questions. Can it be used wherever you are as an Echo if you have it on your watch? Like, can you just say whatever?
Don't know.
I
You
don't
don't know
know.
that?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that would necessarily. I think you need to be near that device.
At one point,
Right.
at one point, you could do Gmail on there,
Mhm.
but I just read yesterday that they stopped doing that. So that would be good if they could, but they
Right, right.
Mhm.
I
But-
think it'll probably happen eventually. My other question is, if you know this. So, there's transportation is, like Uber and Lyft, not to mention brand names, but, they're only done digitally. You can't really call because it'll be a disaster.
No, you can call. You can say, Echo, call Uber. Echo, call Lyft.
But
Echo,
will they, do
call
they
Deluxe
call, or
Taxi.
how do they make
I
the ride?
understand that. I haven't done that
Okay,
specifically.
we'll have to figure that
But
out.
I
Yeah.
understand from the ladies down in Georgia
Mhm.
that you can do that and that it will take you through it, um, through the phone. through
Wow,
the
But
we'll
app.
have
then
to try that.
there does have to be a way to get a return ride, I would think. So,
There is, it works. I don't know how, and I haven't done it. I'm not going to tell you.
right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, but
Uh,
these are, we're learning, and this thing
Well-
is
And I
like a
think also, I mean, I remember from when they were on the show, they were saying
Yeah.
the amount of skills that like just come out and like every, I mean,
Every-
it's incredible. Like
Yeah.
it's just like it's like hundreds of different skills. But
Well, the basic skills are, my opinion, that it should go in stages, all right?
Mhm.
First, there's the basic beginning is who's going to use this thing and who wants to gain out of it.
Mhm.
Is it the user and the caregiver? Is it just the user?
Mhm.
And frankly, if it's just the user, you should start out with the basics, make a phone call, tell me the weather, play me some music, do whatever. The caregiver part, I'm not an expert on yet, and I have that on my learning to-do list. But there's clearly things that can be done. You talked, to people talking about making phone calls. If you have one with a screen, Esther told me that I should get the one with the biggest screen. All right. I did not do that because the guy we did this for can't see. So what's the point? So we got one 8-inch screen,
Mhm.
which cost a couple $100 less.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But again, that all goes back to the pre-site planning. What's the deal here?
No, and I think I don't, because when you had first brought this up to the planning. I mean, I love the concept because I think it's like having a checklist, that the pre-checklist that you can kind of do it, because what that's doing is, number one, it makes it easier, to install. But I think also for the person receiving this kind of service is probably like confused. It gets overwhelming, and I think having these things in place so it's not. I mean, listen, I even know myself, and I think we were laughing, Otto, about this. It's like, when I'm doing all this work in the house and I'm trying to connect things with my husband, and things aren't working and it gets like frustrating. And we're like tech savvy people, and it was annoying for us. Like, why is this like not like, go like connecting, and so I think about the person who this is like super foreign of a concept, having these kind of things pre-done. You're
Yeah.
like eliminating that hassle. Like when you're like, oh, what's the password? What is the username? What am I going to do?
Well, that's what we went through. It took us 2.5
Right.
hours, and it should take about a half an hour. The other part of it was by physically seeing what was there. He had a Blu-ray disc player, didn't have a disc in the house, didn't know how to use it, had a Roku box, which was plugged in with all the old 4-color things, hadn't been used in years. So there's all these, when you have somebody in the older category, and frankly, me even, when I looked at this crap, if it wasn't for my son-in-law, he
I know, I get it.
he was the man, but I learned by watching him.
Mhm.
So he would be the guy who really knows the stuff, as far as he knows Apple, he knows Android, he knows them all. So to have that kind of knowledge for the pre-checkup is a good thing.
Yeah,
It doesn't
absolutely.
have to be. I did my own in my own house, Why? Because I have my phone, my username,
Right.
my password, my Amazon
Of
account,
course.
and I'm capable of doing it.
Yeah.
But other people,
Well, I like this, Otto. You're like our man on the streets, You're like in real time, getting in there and
what's the
doing.
best way to learn?
No, but it's so, and I know you also had shared, about the music component, and I
Yes.
always think about like the power of music. So share like that little story about the music.
Well, I said, Larry, use this. I said, Echo, tell Echo to play some Irish music. He's from Ireland. Echo Palm starts playing some music. I said, well, tell it to, it started playing some classic stuff. So I said, well, tell it, Echo, play some uh, St. Patrick's Day type music. Right. And boom, his sister-in-law lives upstairs. It's basically, um, she's Italian. Her family's all Italian. She comes downstairs when we're about to leave. And I said, Larry, say, Echo, play some Italian music. Right away, it kicks in with an opera. And she's standing there like this,
That's
playing along with the
wonderful.
opera. So, I mean, it's just to me, like we talked with the earlier segment about the biggest problem that they've seen is isolation,
Mhm.
uh, basically limited support. Um, all these things, this helps that stuff, the mental part of it. And it's like you're with somebody, basically it'll talk to you. You want to know,
It's incredible, it's really, and that's what I just find, because I think it's these little things, like adding music to your day. I mean, we've talked about it so many times, is the power of music, and the studies, and there's research on the literal benefits of music and memory,
Hmm.
and it's just your overall quality of life. I mean, think about that. If you're in a quiet house all day with nothing, it can be depressing. So I think just being able to do that, and you could even listen to old time radio shows they had mentioned, Esther. And so, you could sit there and say, play some old time. So it just, there's nostalgia. I mean, there's so many layers to really dive into, these products. And I just think and I just want to remind people, the Pioneer newsletter hopefully should be going out in the next week or so. It's been sent over to the printer, but there's an article in there that, is like, obviously there could be more detail on the website, but it's a great opening, vision to what these things are capable of, and kind of how to do it. So it's
well,
just amazing, Otto.
my wish is that we try to follow the pattern that I had mentioned last night.
Mhm.
Um, try to get a session where I and my son-in-law would be involved,
Mhm.
and then we could talk about how can this be done, realizing that PI does not have a technical staff. All right. So how can this stuff be used in a way that's practical, that makes sense? You can't have, like my son-in-law is not going to go to every house and install these things. All right. He can help somebody who wants to install it,
Mhm.
and we can have some printed material that gives you good guidance in terms of
Absolutely.
what to do. Um,
Hmm.
and as we go along, we'll get better at it,
Mhm.
and it'll come commonplace,
No, and I
actually.
think that's so important, Otto. Obviously, when you're involved, as you mentioned, your experience, when you're going to install the kind of a technology, there's like a lot, as we said, needs to be in place, and you don't know what you're walking into, what wires are attached and stuff. So obviously, we'd love if we could go to everyone's home and install these things for them, but that could be a days upon days process. But what Otto and I were talking about is really making the social workers and nurses understand the capability of these devices, so that they are able to kind of articulate that when talking to the senior, or, a family member, because in reality, the family member is probably the one that's going to need to assist in setting
Hmm.
this up, and knows, what, as Otto said, whether they're the ones that are really going to want to utilize this kind of service, or the senior is, there, it's two different, functions of it. So,
Could be
um,
both, though.
oh, of course. I
Yeah,
mean, because that's what I'm saying. I think it's like, but that's like a personal kind of
right,
choice, like what
right.
you want it tailored to.
Why do you want to use this?
Right, but I think, the first step is really explaining to people, because I know how all the three of us, we walked away from that interview. We were like, oh my God, like, look at all
Yeah.
this stuff that can be done. Our minds were blown. I mean, I was telling everyone about the interview. So I think about that, and that's why it's so important, and I love the idea, Otto, of you. There can be two kind of flip sides. There could be a training just for our social workers and nurses to understand, and our staff, and then on, a chat program kind of thing for, seniors to come to understand. And you're so right, seeing it in action is kind of the best way to, really get the capabilities of it.
And I don't think it's as near as intimidating, the echo, as the computer, because you're not like linking and venturing into
right, you're not like typing anything, it's different.
I mean, once it's in, it's in. I mean, you just like echo, when did World War II end?
Right, exactly.
And in his case, he wants the news read to him. All right. We did that, and CNN read to him. It was the video channel. However, I've since learned that you can do it with radio stations, have the news read to him, without going to a radio, and you
No, Otto, you set it up where there's like the routine. So if they say good morning, blah, 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 it'll like work its way through the different things.
Yeah, there's routines. We didn't do that, but you can put multiple skills within what they call a routine.
Gotcha.
All right. And we didn't get to that point yet, but
I like it.
All right, well, we have to take a quick and our final break, as we will return to Talk of the Town with Kristina Liu and Otto Los, which will be our final segment. You're listening to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org, and we will be right back.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
Welcome back to Project Independence in You, Senior Talk Radio, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We're in our Talk of the Town segment with Otto Los and Kristina Liu. Otto has just done some incredible work along with his son-in-law, giving us a lot of information, background information, and just, endless stuff. And it's just on the Echo and those kinds of devices. And they kind of like learn, I don't know if either one of you saw the movie Kimi, Kimi. So Kimi is a device kind of like Echo. And what happens is this device records a murder. So there are people that they're called like readers and transcribers that teach, they have to understand when Kimi doesn't do the right thing, and they have to educate. So they're constantly, this is the response for this. This is the response for that. So it's not like, I don't think Echo kind of says learns itself. So I'm curious if that is the way that, they make,
I'm sure, I'm sure there like constantly has to be little like tweaks and stuff and figuring out like what works or what doesn't work, because it can be, different variations of questions or, how you ask something. It's really interesting, but I think that it's certainly a world that is worth tapping into.
Last thought you just triggered, all right? Part of the the site survey really is a people survey too, is does a hearing problem, a vision problem, mobility problem, or the need for safety exist with this person? And that all will steer you in another direction, depending if there's a hearing problem, if there's a vision problem. If I have a mobility problem, maybe I want to use what my son-in-law called whatever, Firebud, I think, or something like that, where you can control the TV with this thing, right? You can have lights go on and off. You can have the thermos. You can get to the smart home level if that person has a serious mobility problem.
Yeah, and I know it could be, and what I liked also that it could be used as like an external speaker. So if someone does, that's what they were saying, has little hearing issues, you could have this device next to you, and then it's serving as a speaker if you're watching television, so it's closer to you. So I just think all these things, it's just so great, and that's what's wonderful about the pre kind of survey and what you're looking for, because it's such an
And
individualized kind of thing.
they
So
accomplished the goal of trying to help people stay at home for as long
yeah,
as they can.
absolutely. So I'm excited to hear about your journey, Otto. From week to week, you'll have to give us,
Well,
your
you guys come up with some dates where we could have a
absolutely.
session.
Yeah, definitely.
Nothing
definitely.
more than a chat, and we
Yeah,
figure
I'm
out
down. Sounds good
a
to me.
direction, where to go. We all talk about what we
Great.
visualize.
So everyone could stay tuned to this, because I think this
Bravo,
is definitely
Otto.
absolutely
Bravo.
incredible. Our
Really,
man on the streets. There we go,
Yeah.
Otto Los.
really
But
good.
next week we have another great show. We're going to have on Ron Fatula, who is an elder law attorney, is going to be on discussing elder law, what you need to know now. As we know, things are always changing and updating, and that's another realm of things that can be super confusing. So he will be on breaking it down. Ron's been on the show a bunch of times and really explains things very clearly and, easy to understand. So
Yeah.
he'll be on. I'm excited for that.
It's so important. I mean, that show will be archived. He's an elder law attorney on Long Island in our area. He knows the ins and outs, and so it's really like an important.
And Ron will
hour.
also has an article in our Pioneer, which is the 5 essential documents too, which I think we're always talking about preparing, and I think that these things are important to have and to update, based upon whatever your current circumstances and what your wishes are, because that's a whole nother realm, and I'm sure we'll get into that with Ron too. Is getting people to accept that. I've said it numerous times on the show. My grandpa, when he was alive, it was so difficult to get him to do these documents. He didn't want, but he finally understood when we said, but you want to do it now because you get to call the shots,
Right.
So it's not like someone, because he couldn't get past the fact that people, it's like, so that getting over that hurdle, then he got it. You want to do this because then you get to say what happens to,
Right.
in planning and whatnot. So
right. Do you want to control what happens with your stuff, or do you want someone else to? Because that's ultimately, and then you forget about it. But still, it's.
That's right.
But
So
I do believe that there's maybe all people want to have control over their stuff, but a lot of people are in denial about they'll ever.
yeah, well, of course.
Never
And
need
listen,
them.
we can't say
They're going to be here forever, so they don't have to worry. And maybe they don't
No,
like the
because my
face.
grandpa used to say that, and we would laugh, because he'd be like, "Well, what do I care? Like, what happens?" And it's like, and we would laugh, like, "Well, you know what? True, valid."
Yeah, that's true.
Good point. Good point.
I was like, I don't.
Well, I mean, it is true,
that
and
way.
that's an attitude you can
Can't
have.
argue with that.
No, it'll be up to them. I'll fight it out. I'm not going to.
That should be a great show. And the email newsletter just came out earlier in this week for March. So I want to remind people to, if you have access to email, to please sign up for the email newsletter. You can call 311 or 516-869-6311 to be added to the list, because it's sent out monthly. It's jam-packed with all different upcoming programs that you could attend. It also has, just little general blurbs about different, we have about our transportation program, if there's any updates in there, about our exercise program. And then it also has different town events that are coming up. It's really great. There's an article in there that I actually linked to our fabulous friends over at the Senior Safety Advice, because they had an article on spring cleaning and decluttering, which is certainly something that's on my personal mind right now. So that was in there. And we had mentioned on March 16th, we're having, which is very exciting, our first return to in-person advisory committee meeting. It's crazy. It's just so weird to me too that it's like literally like 2 years almost to like the day.
I know.
It's crazy. Yeah. So that's going to be at Clingy Martin Park on March 16th, which is a Wednesday at 10 a.m. What's also nice is we're figuring out a way to still have a virtual component too. So it's we're working on that now, and it's just going to be great to kind of have people together and different community leaders we're going to invite over there, and our social workers and nurses will give updates on their programs. And it's probably just going to be nice to like just see people's faces. There'll be light refreshments served. So if you are interested in either attending or receiving a Zoom link, you could call 311 or 516-869-6311 to attend that. And you could hear, Otto will be there. So if anything, you just want to come to see Otto,
Yeah.
In person.
That's right. If you want any autographs from Otto, that's where you could find him. We also have a bunch of our social groups are still meeting in different kind of ways depending on the group's needs. Our Blankets of Love ladies is just incredible, and they just did another donation of like 12 or something blankets. So they are just incredible. So and the group is growing and growing. Beck, I think you could speak on that too. When we walk by, we just see every
Yeah.
week there's a new member, and they're just talking and socializing and just making these beautiful blankets that are donated to wonderful causes. So they meet on Tuesdays over at Clinton G. Martin Park in person. We have a caregiver support group that's still virtual. Our Golden Hearts Bingo and Blood Pressure is over at Roslyn Community Center. They meet on Thursdays. We also have a social discussion group and a men's discussion group. They are continuing to meet virtually right now. But these things might be changing, depending on comfortability of people, but we're trying to make it kind of decisions all together, which is nice. And of course, we have our Friday program over at Yes We Can, where you can do exercise for balance and strength over there, and that's through NYU Langone. There's a current events group, and of course, the fabulous mindfulness coloring, which is great too. So a lot of wonderful stuff. There's great programs, and it's exciting that I'm getting a lot of requests now for things to be doing in-person programs.
Yeah.
I think it was last week, Beck, we had a Technology for the Terrified over at Clinton G. Martin
Monday.
Park. So that
Monday, yeah.
was that just Monday? It seems like it was forever.
I know. I just wanted to mention something with the Friday program, that there's still availability. It used to be prior to the pandemic, we had to close out because we had too many people, but there's still some openings if people want to sign up for that, balance program or any of the other programming. So, and it's really just the Yes We Can Community Center is just so
Beautiful.
nice and managed so beautifully now. It's really a great place to go and to utilize.
Absolutely. Well, that's great. And then on March 9th, we have a chat over at Magnolia Gardens, which is across the street from the Yes We Can Community Center, and it's Project Hope Coping with COVID-19. We've talked about Project Hope on this show before. We've had, them do different presentations to our advisory committees. And I think it's important to recognize, and we talked about this earlier too, that while things are, on the up direction of things, it's still a lot of effects, and there's still people who have fears and doubts, and it's almost like a shell shock, kind of thing, and I think that that's normal, and I want to normalize that too. I was just having a conversation with my mom, about it, and she was saying, at work, everyone just, has removed their mask, and it's like, it's so great. She said, but she's still so nervous, and I said, there's no like rhyme or reason, because she's like, sometimes I said, do whatever makes you feel comfortable,
Right.
And I think that that's the importance, just because these things are being lifted, which is wonderful. It's still, I think it's important for everyone to kind of do what and, you sometimes just have to like wean yourself off and work into it, because it's been, 2 years of this. So I just think it's important that organizations like this are still available. So that is March 9th at 11:30 over at Magnolia Gardens, the presentation. So I just think that's great. We also have our St. Francis cardiac screening van is kicking off on March 8th at Fuschilla Park. What's so great about this is you do not need to make an appointment. You literally can just show up and get all different kinds of screenings and education, which is wonderful. So that's a great partnership. And, after that, every month they're at different locations. So we'll be promoting that. But the first one is March 8th. And that you could go there from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And that's Fuschilla Park, which is a great facility as well. We also have a program through Cornell Cooperative Extension, which is on March 30th. They are absolutely fabulous, big friends of the show. And their topic is Read It Before You Eat It. So this is really about understanding the ingredients on food labels, which I think is so important too. I think about, you'll see like the pretty packaging on a box and say, oh my God, this looks healthy.
Right.
They'll have the right buzzwords and you say, this sounds great. Like I'm eating it. And then all of a sudden you flip it over and look at the ingredients, and there's all kinds of things that you have no idea like what they
Right.
are.
Right,
It's a
like where it says
chemistry.
no sugar added.
Right.
Well, it doesn't have to add sugar. There's a ton of it in there,
Right.
and they add honey or syrup or
Right.
or
I mean,
something
and you'll
like
see
that.
some of these words you can barely pronounce, and
Yeah.
I think that that's such an important skill. So they will be providing that.
I mean, some food is almost like a chemical formula.
Yeah.
Yes.
At one time, for whatever reason, to be humorous, would take something that had this long thing with names, and I couldn't read the 3/4 of the names
Yeah.
of what was in there. So
I
it's
know.
like a big chemical mixture.
It is.
Yeah.
And like looks are deceiving. It really goes back to don't judge a book by its cover, because you don't know what's going on inside. So I think that that's a really important chat. That's going to be at Magnolia Gardens on March 30th at 11 a.m. As well. So they do a wonderful job on presenting different chats. So shout out to them. Beck, I know our exercise classes are filling up rapidly. There is some availability, correct, for some classes?
Yeah,
still?
it's limited,
Yes.
but the good news is this week we are starting. Today actually was Margaret's first go in Port Washington with her classes, which are
Mhm.
completely full. Also, next week starts her classes on Monday, and Wednesday we started with a new fitness instructor on Wednesdays teaching yoga and fitness. And he's terrific. He's affiliated with Metro Wellness, which is part of Metro Physical Therapy. They're great partners of ours over the years. And he's not only a certified trainer and an assistant physical therapist over there, he's also yoga certified, and he facilitates silver sneakers. So
great.
he's really prepped in, the program. So I think, we're going to have a great partnership with them. And, I wouldn't be surprised if we're doing some silver sneakers down the road. So yeah, give a call. They are pretty much filling up, and, and they go through June. So, there's still room. We have some yoga openings, a couple of fitness openings, and also, we've limited the size of the classes. So the more that we open, it's possible we can open the door for a few more people.
Right, and I think that's, everyone just stay tuned, because obviously we'll always be promoting if there's any changes. Hopefully, certain things, restrictions and whatnot can be, removed, and we could open it to bigger groups, which I think would be really, really cool.
Right.
Speaking of fitness, I know I mentioned last week, the Drums Alive woman founder, Carrie Ekins. I met with her via Zoom, and she is from Germany. So it was very interesting. And that was I was thinking of Zoom, we don't have a long distance charge. I could just Zoom in, with anyone. And I was thinking that's such a cool thing for people, and she is an absolute delight. I reached out to her because of an article that was in Newsday that our fabulous Otto had sent over to me about drumming for seniors, and it looked fun, right? So we were just on the surface. It looked super fun. We're like, all right, let's learn more about this. So I'd reach out to her. Her story is incredible. I will let her, share it with everyone, but how she got involved with it and just the impacts of this program, besides it being an enjoyable physical activity, which is good for you, it just has a lot of wonderful positive impact on brain health.
And Kristina, you're amazing. How you find these guests are just, so this is
I can't let Otto down, I have a rep to protect.
Otto, she
My
lives
part
in
was
Germany.
easy. I just send it to you, and then you do all the
I know,
dirty
it's like,
work.
I'm telling you, it's
But
magic.
it's going to be great. So she'll be on in May. And it'll be our first international guest, which is
so exciting.
But it's really
Come into the studio, we'll be able to go live.
That's right.
Well, that's it. That's it for the show. Kristina, thanks for, the great segment on updating us on everything going on in the town. Otto, thanks for all the information, all the hard work you're doing with Echo. We are grateful for you, for sure. It's just tremendous. Next week's going to be a great show with Ron Fatula. Everyone have a great weekend. Dan Cox, thank you so much for just making this program work every single week. This is Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWC.org. Have a great weekend.